Hey, everybody. All right. Welcome to the third Livestream 3, Rooftops of America, Livestream 3. Hope everybody's having a good night. And yeah, glad you're here. So it's Sunday, April 30th. It's hard to believe that April is done. Like, I find it absolutely crazy that the month just flew right by. It's been quite a month, like a lot of ups and downs. Um, and so I'm desperately looking forward to going into May. May's an awesome month in general because it's usually when I start ramping up like things for the summer. It's also my son's birthday month. It's my birthday month. Um, and so yeah, a lot of big plans usually in May. And of course, Memorial Day weekend, everybody's starting out their summer and stuff like that. Hey, Pretzel, um, doing all right. It's Sunday. It's been a wet weekend, sort of kept us all in the house. Done well a fair share of editing for the Tennessee episode. Did a lot of reading on the other project. Good share of writing for that, writing for Vermont, writing for Pluto. So it's been, and then just usual just life in general stuff, getting caught up. One of the other big projects on the plate right now is helping my son here and there do his PAL project um, for fourth grade. I think it's uh, personal learning or personal directed learning thing. And he's doing his on robotics. So it's been really cool to watch him explore that area. It's not necessarily a thing that I know too much about. When I think of robots, I usually think of C3PO, R2D2. So, um, hey, Traveling Ramen, nice to see you. Bill, nice to see you. Sergeant Cassius, nice to see you. Welcome aboard. I'm not sure you've been here before, but thanks for being here. And Pretzel, any plans to go to the High Pointers convention? I think it's in Georgia, if I remember right. Isn't it in Georgia this year? Down in Brasstown Bald? If it is, maybe. It really depends on the time. I've got my 30-year, I think I mentioned this last time, my 30-year high school reunion coming up in August, which is like right in the middle of August. So it's sort of shifting how we want to do Arizona. So we're trying to work around that. So right now, I'd say for the convention, 50-50. I'd like to. I've not been to one yet. I feel that I've been missing out. I know a lot of people have had some great experiences at the convention. So um, I'd like to get down there. Georgia's a good excuse to go visit the in-laws in July. And then, Brasstown Bald's only like 4.5 hours away from Nashville. So um, there is a chance of making it to the convention. FSU 2000. No, I have not hit all 50 high points. I'm hoping to hit 40 this year. Get over the 40 hump. I can even rattle all the ones I have yet to do. We got Upper New England, and so that would be Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, New York. And I want to get actually 3 of those busted out this year. The one out there that's a little bit iffy is Maine. That might slip till next year. I'm really hoping to get Vermont done in particular coming up in May. So, and then out west, I've got California. I was originally hoping to do California this year, but we didn't make it through the lottery. And then Granite, um, Bora, Oregon, Mount Hood, Mount Rainier. So that upper section of the West to finish out, and then Alaska and Hawaii. And then territory-wise, everything in the Pacific. So Guam, Agrahan, Northern Marianas, and then down on Lada Mountain in American Samoa. So it's been, it's surprisingly, it took, since I started the series, now that I filmed Klingman's Dome earlier this month, April, I finally am caught up in some ways of how many I had done prior to starting the series. Like I finally got the last one finished that I had did prior to ever starting Rooftops of America, and that was Tennessee. Though that hasn't stopped me from going back and refilming ones that I don't think are up to snuff. So so those 5 high points, what I've been missing. We were trying to figure that out the other day. A couple weeks ago, I think you had asked me that question. I got to go back to my roster and look at the spreadsheet in general. There's more than a few multiples now too. So I've been like Tim's Hill, of course, doesn't count because I grew up near there. So I've been there numerous times as a kid. But Britton Hill, we make a tradition every time we go down to the beach on the Panhandle there, stopping there. So that's like my second most visited high point. Been to Delaware a bunch because it's right down the road. A project I want to do, just a stupid photo collage, is the Delaware High Point throughout the year. If I lived, I'd love to almost do something like a Monet, the same shot over and over. But I think I'm going to at least do it once a month, starting in January of 2024, and go down there and just take a photo of it. Try to get down there the same date of the month for a year and make a little collage out of it. It's eBright Azimuth, so it's not like it's this crazy thing, but that's sort of what I would find funny. That little, here's this place that's nothing significant other than the fact it just happens to be a geographical oddity, its size point, and then to take, see how it, looks throughout the seasons. So, Eric, nice to see you here. Mansfield in May 2020, there's quite a bit of snow at the top of the shady side of the mountain. And actually, I've been thinking about that too, because this year's been a little chillier. I'm looking at the latter part of the month, closer to Memorial Day than at the 4. But Mansfield's, I wouldn't want to go to Mansfield and bust out again. It's the only one I've ever turned around on. So I'd like to actually knock it out and have it sort of, be able to go up there and do the whole thing. So, budgeting for a trip to Bora and Kings, that's almost, we talked once upon a time that when we were going to do Kings Peak, maybe make it a week and then do Bora. But after doing Kings last year, and we were wiped out 3 days. And the rain at the end just really took it out of us. So the nice thing about the ones in the East is you can get out here and probably knock out a bunch, rent a car, just drive around and pick up things. So, so how's everybody else doing? How's everybody doing? How was April for you? Hey, Ray. Welcome to the stream. Glad you're here. Anybody have any big life events or things noteworthy in April that they want to share? If so, throw it in the chat. I was going to say, hey, Lover Fishy, nice to have you here. I'm looking forward to seeing what your adventures are this coming summer in Colorado. So I was going to say, my plan's coming up. So I already mentioned Vermont in May, doing Mount Mansfield. And then June, we're trying to figure out if we should, trying to figure out if we can get a date in there to run back and actually film the rest of Utah. No climbing involved, a little bit of hiking, but mainly a lot more driving, and pick up the rest of the footage on that. And then perhaps, if timing is right, potentially do a redo of Ohio. I hadn't mentioned that before. So decided to do New Mexico and Arizona in June and Kingston in July. 39.4. That's cool. That's awesome. All new Wheeler Peak is, I really liked Wheeler Peak a lot. And Arizona is just, that's it's, I don't want to say it's easy, because nothing once you start grabbing altitude is quote unquote easy. But it's a fun one. And Flagstaff's just a good town. So, Humphreys Peak there is one where you can just get up there, and it literally is more a nice half a day, and you can then go back down, drive a couple miles into Flagstaff, grab a nice beer, some wings, stuff like that. So yeah, that is true. My godson is about to turn 13, which is absolutely crazy. So Sergeant Cassius is my best friend Matt, who helped me shoot Tim's Hill. And if I have my druthers, I'm going to drag him out to reshoot Michigan, actually. He also shot way back when. Matt shot Illinois with me. This would have been back in 2016. And it's always fun to sort of think back, like when we were first starting this, how much work it took to try to do these things. And it was, nowadays when we do it, we can knock out so much more, so much better. Archie, hey, welcome. Delaware and Vermont this summer. Nice. Like I said, if you guys come through on Ebright Asmith in Delaware, send me a note. Happy to meet up with you. When I put on one of a Black Elk Peak, depends where you draw the line. Technically, yeah, Guadalupe Peak is taller, but it depends where you draw that. I mean, it literally, Guadalupe Peak is so far west. It's crazy. So, and then if you want to, depending when you draw the line, I want to say this is for Pretzel's question on high points. I think the one in the Azores or the Canary Islands is taller. So, and then, once again, depending where you draw the line, Durante Peak in the Dominican Republic is 13,000 feet. So that is a pretty taller, that is a pretty substantial bit of real estate there. So, but just chalk it up with fun maps, right? So, other things. Yeah, so the rough schedule right now is Vermont, and hopefully maybe getting back out and finishing up filming in Utah. but that's not really a hike. I'd like to also pick up. I'd like to also pick up perhaps New Hampshire in the latter part, like in July. I think Mount Washington would be, the Caribbean. I want to say Blue Mountain in Jamaica is like 8,000 some odd feet too, maybe a little taller. But there's some. Hey, Mark. Thanks for dropping in. I hope you're doing well. I have to talk to you at some point in the near future about other stuff, not related to high points and that. So it's nice to see you. And then I was going to say, by August, doing if I have to go back for the 30-year high school reunion in Wisconsin, I'm going to make the most of it. So potentially go back, refilm Michigan or refilm Indiana on the way there. So both of them, so much was left. You've heard me say this numerous times before. So much was left on the cutting room floor, so to speak. There was so much more history up in the UP that I could have unpacked that we never did. And the same goes for Indiana. Might not look like much, but there's a lot there. So it's really cool. Said you can try to do 50 by 50. Fingers crossed. I'm trying to rationalize that, like, well, maybe I'll get Denali done by 50 and, there'll be one or two other ones just floating out there. So we'll see how it plays out. Best laid plans. It's funny to think how crazy 2020 was, how it just upended everything and really sort of like threw off a schedule that I had in my head. Yes, Denali is still going to be the series finale, maybe. I've wrestled with that. I've gone back and forth because for me, Denali it's almost a mini series. Like that would be multiple episodes because it's such a thing. There's so much to it and there's so much that goes with it. I mean, it's unlike anything else. And even if we did a build-up, we'd go down to Mexico and climb the volcano down there, the country high point. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But that's all great content. And so Denali, but at the same time, I've mentioned Agrahan before too, and that in itself is just this crazy expedition. And so, I don't know. I mean, it's YouTube. How do people consume these things? A lot of this stuff, people might be searching for something and they start an episode there's no particular order. So I've gotten more fluid with how I'm thinking about it. Agrahan is in the Marianas. It's way up on the chain. So as for national park high points, I've not been to many. It's on the list to start doing more. But at present, it's never been the top priority. Orizaba and Pico de Orizaba. That's good intel. We'll have to talk more, Jess. Other things that, the other big part of this summer that's coming up that I'm working through right now, it's actually the new series. And that's completely not related to the high points. But we finally figured out which founding father we're going to start with our production on. Who's going to be the first to get filmed. So the hardest one of those are done is easily Voyageurs. Yeah, well, that's way up there. I mean, Voyageurs National Park, for folks that aren't aware, is way up in the Arrowhead in Minnesota. And if you're doing it on Thanksgiving weekend, that can yield some pretty interesting conditions up there. So I'm surprised, Pretzel, that one of the ones you haven't picked up is the Arch in St. Louis. I don't know. Is that a national park or is that a memorial? Maybe it's not a national park. But yeah. So I'd have to think. Like, I know for a fact, the Smokies. That's one I've done for sure. And then Guadalupe Peak also. So but yeah, we're settled on John Morton. And for those that don't live in Pennsylvania, John Morton is one of the founding fathers from this state. And he was in Chester County, so it's right down the road from me. So it's super easy to go start with him. He's also one of the lesser known ones, so we don't have to jump through as many hoops to get access to stuff with John, and it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to going down the path of a new series and seeing how it goes, and figuring out, what people are, hopefully that, people will enjoy it, the stories we got to tell. So I've been talking a lot. What do you guys got? For my beverage of tonight, I'm actually drinking good Wisconsin beer, a little New Glarus Nectar Ale from the 2022 line, Thumbprint series. Good enough that I wish I had another bottle, not necessarily for tonight. How do you think the filming on Denali would work? Good question. Let me get back to you once we've done Rainier. I think we're just going to have to be we're really going to have to plan it out. We really need to figure out what we're going to need equipment-wise and what redundancies and how we're going to, the big thing is how you're going to do power. So what does that entail, especially for a multi-week thing? It's an event. I will probably start talking to other people who have filmed on Denali and see what they used, equipment they used, tips, tricks, things like that. Now, the movie magic behind Rooftops of America has always been there's only two shots that are absolutely key. One, actually, you can get away with just one shot. The only shot that absolutely matters that you have to get is the summit shot. That's it. That's the one that counts. You got to get to the top. Got to get that shot. Here we are on the summit of whatever. Guadalupe Peak, the highest point, the rooftop of Texas. Blah, 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 blah. That's the shot that counts. The rest of it, you can get little bits here and there. All the history, all that. I can do that anywhere as long as whatever's behind me looks interesting. Well, we try to do it on, in the general location. So when we're thinking about Denali and how we're going to film that, that's part of the equation too. So, and it, we got to look at what a crew would look like for that. So, Eric, are you going to hike Whitney without a permit? Nah, we're going to go to Arizona. We'll refilm Arizona. I've wanted to refilm Arizona for years. And I think it'll be fun to go back down to Humphreys and redo it with a better sense of what to expect. Because I don't know if I told you this story before, but when we first went to Humphreys, me and my friend Brett thought we were still in the Army and in our 20s, and we drank like it the night before, and then went up Humphreys the next day, and we couldn't ever quite figure out if it was the altitude sickness or the hangover that we were suffering from, which was not a good turn of events. We had a successful summit, that is true, but it was not a smart summit. So we learned a very valuable lesson that day, that it's the party waits till after you're all safely back down. It's rosé season here. Nice. I got Leslie, my wife, a bottle of rosé the other day. Besides Denali, how many high points are multi-day hikes? Rainier, Gannett, Granite, Hood. I think you can do Hood in a day. But Rainier, Gannett, Granite, Kings, and then let's see. I think that's the big ones. Those 4 are multi-day. Yeah, I agree, Archie. I know that scene in and out in my head. I can see it in my mind's eye, and I look forward to making it a reality. Archie, that's a good point. Marcy can also be a multi-day. I know people hike in and camp on that. Kings, if you can do Kings in a day, but it's going to be a super long day. California could be as well, depending on your route. So, but for me, the way I'm looking at it is, Marcy can be, I think it's 14 miles total. And some people get there, treat it as a overnight on a weekend. So they get there on Friday afternoon, hike in, camp, get up early, do the summit, come back, grab your gear, get out. So, 15. Thanks, Archie. So, it was funny, like Kings was the first multi-day hike that we had in this whole crazy adventure I've been doing. So, how's filming on Kings? Good. We got decent weather for most of it. By the time the hike out, though, it rained, and that was actually one of the things that threw us off our game, is because we had the intent. I should have built in another day. We did it in. We did it 3 days, and I should have built in 4. And Brett was able to capture everything on Saturday just fine. That was the day we summited. And then Sunday we hiked out, and it rained and it rained and it rained. Literally started raining that night, and it rained pretty much almost all the way until we got to the car. And then it stopped, and we were able to get a bit, but we were so cooked and just miserable that we did a little bit, and I was like, I just didn't have the desire to keep going. I should have. I kick myself now. But at the same time, I also knew I had to catch a flight back in Salt Lake City. And I wanted to, I know Brett had a hotel room, and I'm like, well, I want to not be filthy and nasty when I get on the plane. So took filming time to Sky dries out his boots and becomes a clean, clean person that somebody could sit next to on a flight and not be like absolutely miserable. Marcy's training for weight. That's a good idea, Ron, man. That is a great idea. Does the camera equipment add a substantial amount of weight to the backpacking setup? We started moving to lighter stuff. So the camera I started out with, my Beast, which is actually right up here. This thing. This old Nikon. This thing's a beast. That's a heavy bit of stuff to be humping around on your back. But what we've been experimenting with now is more GoPro. GoPro shoots so good right now that you'd be foolish not to necessarily use it. So we're shifting over to more of that. Plus, even the wireless mic setup I've got now is significantly smaller than the one I had been using. I'm just using my MacBook computer propped up on a couple boxes so it's a little straight around. And that's it. I'm just using the MacBook. At some point, I will probably change it and either hook the GoPro up, put it on a tripod. But this is just convenient right now. So here's a dirty little secret. When it comes to this, what I'm really good at is the writing and the hosting, per se, than necessarily the photography and the videography. You can tell what I've shot compared to what Brett or Syl has shot because they've got a much more technical eye. They really know their equipment. They know the ins and outs. They know how to get the most out of it. Even Jess, who has shot stuff with me, she understands the equipment so much better. She understands how to frame things. And, me, I just sort of set it up and I know how I look in the camera. I've done this enough to know where I position myself, what it's going to look like. But I tend to let the camera do the heavy lifting and I just try to get the line out in a reasonable fashion. So that's the Skymar Thaler dirty secret about Rooftops of America. If I have to film it solo, you can almost always tell because it's not as good of a quality as it probably could be if I was more focused on the tech side. But I like to write, I like to research, I like to host. So those are the things I lean into. So, man, it's already 9 o'clock. This time flies. Anything else? How are you, stuff you guys got planned for summer, stuff you got planned for May? If anybody's already starting to look forward to fall. Anybody coming out here, out east, anytime soon? Philadelphia, Delaware? I know you mentioned you guys are planning on picking up Ebright Azimuth, Archie. So that's awesome. Yeah, if you do, like I said, don't be a stranger. Hit me up. Victor Hackbarth, what are you doing 30 minutes from Philly right now? Now that is a shot. That is pretty awesome. Ron, man, if you're up in Lehigh Valley, I actually have a friend who's actually moving out of there next month. Let's see, number 18. How long are you going to be up there, Victor? Okay. send me a note to here. Because I'm right down in Valley Forge. So it'd be awesome to see you. What? Good gravy, Victor. We got to connect. So real quick, just so you're all aware, Victor and I served together back in the Guard when we got called up after 9/11, man, 20 plus years ago. And it's been like, he actually introduced me to the sport of disc golf. And then I hadn't played it for years, but when the pandemic started, because I had such a great time playing disc golf with him, I introduced my son, and it's one of our favorite things we do. So that is my story about Victor. He also, I don't know if he still played piano, but he played a mean piano. So, hey, Romeo, nice to have you here. Urson, you'll try Whitney in August in one day. Nah, you'll be fine. 99 switchbacks. Just count them down as you go up. Let's see. I'm not very used to elevation, so I'm worried about, like I mentioned on the Livestream too, because I think it came up. Get super hydrated. Take plenty of ibuprofen or acetaminophen. I think ibuprofen. Or Motrin, whatever. I think Motrin is ibuprofen. Get good rest, and you can fake it. So, no, not 90, 99. You cue up the Jay-Z song. I think it's Jay-Z. Next episode, Romeo, is going to be Tennessee. It's in the editing right now, and I was hoping to drop it tomorrow, but we're chewing up more time on the live stream, so it's probably going to come out Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Friday, the Friday special. How did I get into high pointing? So I got into it because I was looking for a new thing. And I had mentioned the class reunion, and on my 20-year class reunion, so literally 10 years ago, actually right around that August weekend, as I was going back to Wisconsin, driving down I-70, I noticed a sign as you cross over the border from Ohio into Indiana, and it made mention to the Indiana State High Point. And that's the kind of weird little oddities that I love. So it's like only 10 miles away, and I needed a break. So I turned up and went and stopped at the Indiana State High Point, Hoosier Hill, which, you know, I've often joked is not the high points you want to introduce somebody to when you're going to start state high points. But I loved it. And, you know, since I did Timms Hill as a kid, growing up like in that part of Wisconsin, I just thought, you know, hey, this could be a fun list. And as I looked at the 50, and I was living in Blacksburg, Virginia at the time, I realized, you know, right in the middle of basically the Southern six-pack, not even say more of the Southern six-pack plus the Maryland, Pennsylvania, West Virginia connection too, that I was able to do a whole bunch of these really close and make day trips. So I just got into it, and it's been one of the best things I've ever done, hands down. If you want to see America, this is the best way to do it. This will take you to places that most people won't go to. It'll introduce you to, if you really want to dig into it, it's going to introduce you to crazy bits of American history that, for better or worse, has been forgotten. And you're going to see stuff most people don't. And I love it. I think that's one of the best things that can be said about doing high points. And it's been a great community. It's rekindled in me a sense of my love of storytelling. It has allowed me to really dive into filming and photography and introduce myself to something that I never would have gotten into. I dabbled into it. In fact, with Romeo, I'd worked on a project, but this really took it to the next level, and it made it where I could do projects on my own, and then assemble a crew and go do this stuff. So that was one of the reasons getting into high pointing. It did so much more than just, oh, I go to the high points of each state. For me, it changed everything, changed a lot. Let's see. How big of an expedition group would you need for the big peaks? Agrahan, Denali, Gannett, Granite, Rainier. So Granite, we can probably get away with 3 people. Same with Gannett. Rainier, I don't know, because that's glacier. So I'll have a better understanding of that after I film on Hood. And Gannett, actually. So Hood before Rainier and Gannett. Agrahan is like Denali. It's a completely different world. It's such a different sort of thing. What are your plans for the channel after you finish the high points? Great question. I have ideas. I've always wanted to do the highest points in the British Isles. So I've always wanted to do more stuff. I'd like a tour of Japan and go through the 8 traditional provinces, 9 if you include Okinawa. And so I'd like to take it and go out. Nah, no 7 summits for me. There's only one outside of Denali. The only other 7 of one of the 7 summits that really appeals to me is Vinson in Antarctica. I don't know what it is about that. That has always sort of appealed to my sense of adventure. It's so different. It's Antarctica. I've always wanted to go there and hang out with the penguins and not get eaten by a leopard seal. So let's see. My first was Tomahawk Hills. The Ozarks in general, the St. Francois Mountains and the Ozarks. I think people don't realize how cool of an area that is. It is such a pretty area. When are we doing Hawaii? Next year, I hope. Hawaii's going to be interesting. Hawaii's going to be very interesting. Yeah. So, all right. We've been doing this now for almost 45 minutes, which seems to be par for the course for the last couple of years. So I think I'm going to wrap this one up. I want to say thanks to everybody for jumping on. This has been awesome, as always. I really, really do appreciate y'all being here. And yeah, I will see you guys in, 2 weeks. So you guys, I'll answer one more question. How high should you start looking out for altitude sickness? Depends. I think it's very subjective for people. So for me, the only time I've ever had it started coming on around 10,000 feet. And that was in Boundary Peak. There are extenuating circumstances to that. Bad sleep, 2 nights in a row of bad sleep, dehydrated, and I wasn't eating well. So that I feel if you're taking care of yourself and your body and you're understanding your condition well, you're less prone to it. But Jess is right. Loverfish is right. Can hit any time and hit at an altitude you were previously comfortable with. So the best thing you can do is stay super hydrated, be in good condition, and get plenty of rest, right? Plenty of rest. So on that bombshell, let's wrap this one up, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. So thanks again for coming out and being here, and thanks for supporting Rooftops of America. Expect Tennessee this week. It's a fun one. So talk to you all later.